Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Taylor Pankratz, and this is Behind the Breakaway. Together with my co-host, Jason Barber, this show takes you behind the scenes of leaving your captive broker-dealer firm and explores the world of RIA independence.
All opinions expressed on the podcast by the hosts and guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Uptick Partners. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not legal advice and should not be relied upon as a basis for any decisions.
Welcome to Behind the Breakaway podcast. We got Taylor here, got Jason.
Yep.
And want to talk to you about don't move your book twice. What does that mean? Why would somebody move their book again? Why would somebody move their book twice?
How do we even come up with this?
Yeah, what does that even mean? So, Jason, what does don't move your book twice even mean?
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about the inspiration for don't move your book twice. So here in East Texas, there's a local attorney who has a TV commercial that he says, "Don't get hurt twice." And the whole message, if you watch the commercial, is just about don't, hire him to represent you if you get into a car accident because you don't want to get hurt physically and then also get hurt financially. Okay, and so I was inspired watching that and listening to those commercials over time to say, well, it's kind of like moving your book of business. It's like you don't want to. Just like you don't want to get hurt twice, you don't want to have to move your book of business twice.
Right.
And we just feel like we've seen on a personal level and experience, we know how difficult it is to move your book of business. We just got done doing it. We're coming up on our 12-month anniversary here very soon. And we've seen the extreme challenges and the amount of effort. And Taylor actually has moved his book twice. And so he
do not recommend.
He definitely knows
Don't
a thing
recommend.
or two, about that. Which we're going to hear the story about that here in a second. But he's moved his book twice, and we've seen plenty of other advisors that they take the path of least resistance the first go around because they think to themselves that it's impossible to take the full measure right at the beginning. And so they visit the halfway house, for lack of a better term. They take a pit stop in the IBD world. Independent broker dealer is what IBD is short for, and or they even maybe go so far as to join some type of a corporate RIA or some other type of thing because they feel the need to affiliate with some type of a much larger organization. And again, a lot of times it's like, well, I'll do that and, I'll take the big check or I'll do this or I'll do that, and then 7 years from now, I'll do it again. Once my forgivable loan goes away, I'll make the move to real independence at that point in time and repaper my clients, or I'll go fee only at that point. I'll drop my Series 7 and then I'll do a bunch of more paperwork at that point in time. And it's just kind of like, why move your book twice? Why do that? You're going through, we have good excuse for why Taylor had to move his book twice, but it's a funny story actually, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But why would you voluntarily, if you had a choice, if you knew that you didn't have to do that, right? If you knew that there was another way, if you knew there must be a better way, right? If you knew that, why would you not choose to move your book once? Okay. And so that's our philosophy. That's our motto for our business is like, once you've made up your mind that you are going to break away, okay, which for most of the folks that we talk to have already pretty much made up their mind, right? They're like, it's not a matter of am I or am I not? It's more of a matter of when and where, right? Is more of the question of, where am I going to go? Am I going to, go the independent broker-dealer route? Am I going to go the corporate RIA route? Am I going to start my own RIA, or am I going to plug into an RIA like Uptick Partners, for example? And so, so our message to those folks is, once you've made up your mind that you're breaking away, don't move your book twice. Just move it once, and then you don't ever have to think twice about it. So, what does that really mean in your mind, Taylor, when you think about that? Like, what does that mean in practical terms? Like, don't move your book twice.
Right. So I think most advisors, when they're breaking away from their captive broker-dealer firm, nobody wants to break away and then think, you know what, I have every intention of having to do this again someday. I think a lot of times people think this is the solution for me, is to go to the halfway house, to go to the IBD channel. And that's why so many people leave the captive broker-dealer and go to the IBD channel, is simply because before Uptick Partners, there really wasn't an RIA that really made sense and really knew the captive broker-dealer advisor and had technology and had the infrastructure and the platform built out specifically to them. And so they just go where everybody else has gone. Right? You just follow the herd because, well, surely it can't be that bad because everybody does it. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is you do it, you transition all your book to the IBD channel, and then you realize, wow, I either am having to take a pay cut, like I took a pay cut somehow in this whole thing and didn't realize it, but I'm taking a pay cut by being at the IBD channel, or wow, the technology really isn't any better.
And you don't have a choice.
And I can't change anything now. The compliance isn't any better. And you're kind of going, well, how could it not be better? I can't imagine it being worse than my current compliance or current technology. And the reality is, it's not better. I know. I used to work in the IBD world at RJ, and I can tell you that it's not, the compliance and the technology is not better. But why is it not? And the answer is simply because, just like your captive broker-dealer, it's not like these IBDs don't have tens of thousands of advisors on their ADV that they're having to do compliance for. And if none of them are fee only, that's a huge FINRA regulatory issue.
Lowest common denominator.
And you have the lowest common denominator problem that you've got where you're currently at. And so either you, in the IBD world, it's either you or an advisor in your branch or your supervisor, somebody at the more local level than it is at your captive broker-dealer, where that person's not in your office. In the IBD world, the person doing compliance is going to be in your office. It might be you. Right? You might be the branch manager for your branch. And so all the little minutia things that your supervisor, offsite supervisor does at your captive broker-dealer firm, you're now doing in the IBD world. That's the biggest rub, which is why a lot of the top people at these IBDs are going RIA. Right? So you're kind of going, like we just did a report on RJ. I think we saw the publicly traded company. They have to do these reports, and it said, hey, we have a tremendous amount of assets that are moving from our IBD channel to our RIA channel. Why would you do that? Right? Yeah. If you're sitting there and you're at a captive broker dealer and you're looking out at RJ's book of business and you're going, why would anybody be leaving the IBD channel and going RIA?
Yeah.
At RJ, why would they be doing that? And so they're going, well, I don't want to have to repaper all my people, because that's a nightmare. We know. So instead of repapering everybody, I'll just kind of try to move incrementally to the RIA world, but stay at the same custodian. So at least my clients aren't going to have to, like, their statements will look the same.
Yeah. But they still have to sign something.
And so you're having to talk the entire book again of, hey, we're
Yeah.
doing this again.
Yeah.
Like we're running it back.
Here's my new ADV.
2.0.
Here's I need you to sign this new wealth management agreement, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
all the stuff.
Why do that?
Mhm.
Why would you do it? The reason you would do it, why people have done it in the past, is there wasn't a platform, an RIA platform out there that was built for them. So they're kind of going, look, I'll go where the herd is gone because it can't be that bad.
Here's another thing, too, that we talked about is, right now we're reading about these articles in the I don't remember what the publication was that we read, that one article specifically about RJ. And again, RJ is not the only company that does this, but is it possible that in the future they say, well, we're just not going to let you do that? We're just not going to let you do that because why? They're giving up a significant amount of revenue for folks to move from that IBD channel into that RIA channel. And it's becoming a big enough of a deal that they're having to talk about it on their earnings reports. Okay. Right. So
yeah, and it's because the industry, it's what we've said on the last few episodes, which is the industry, the fintech, the financial world it's at a point where you no longer need the big broker-dealer support. You just don't need it. And in fact, it's actually holding you back now. It used to be the thing that was supporting you, and now it's the thing that's kind of putting a ceiling on your growth. And so that's why everybody's moving into the RIA channel so that they can hire an outside compliance department. They can take the burden off of the quote-unquote branch manager, which is just the lead advisor in your branch. Take that compliance burden off of them, put it on somebody else, and so they can get back to doing what they want to do, which is be an advisor.
Yeah.
Not being a compliance expert also.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But imagine if you did take the halfway step, right? And you went to the independent broker dealer, or maybe you went to a place that didn't even have, I mean, that would be the worst mistake, would be going someplace where there doesn't even exist an RIA option. You find yourself in this position where you moved your book of business to this halfway independent, quasi-independent option, and then you realize really quickly that you wish that you would have just taken the full measure because, as we talked about, the technology isn't all that special. The compliance is possibly worse, or at least on par with, what you left before. And now you're stuck in this position of, I can't possibly ask my clients to do this again. And I can't possibly ask my staff and all of my people that work for me to do this again.
To learn a whole new system.
A whole new everything, sign all new paperwork. And so then you're basically just stuck, at least for a long, long time, you're stuck. And then maybe someday you gain the courage to do it again, but it's just, what a mess, what a mess. And so at the end of the day, when you think about just the spectrum of independence, it's like, if I'm gonna make the move, if I'm gonna go to all the trouble, put my clients through this effort, put myself through the hard effort and heartache and work and anxiety and everything that's associated with it, why would you take any step? Why would you not step out and say, I'm going to be as independent as I possibly can be, right? Or as close as humanly possible. The closer that I can get to that, the better, okay? And that's really what Uptick Partners is designed to do, is to say, look, most people, since we know we've launched our own RIA from scratch, for most people, it's just a little bit too big of a pill to swallow, right? To say, hey, I'm going to figure out my own technology. I'm going to figure out my own HR. I'm going to figure out my own health insurance and 401k plan and compliance manual. And how do you even go about doing that, without getting discovered by your employer, and just all the stuff that goes into creating a tech stack and getting a phone number and building a website, all that stuff that they do is they say, well, I'm not going to do that. And I don't blame people for not wanting to do what we did, because it is.
I wouldn't do it again. I mean,
it was
that
tough.
was unbelievable.
And like we've said all the time, like if Uptick Partners existed and we could have joined that, we would have done that. Okay, it's just the reality is that it didn't exist.
We looked at joining other corporate RIAs.
Mm-hmm.
We genuinely looked at those, but the problem was none of them understood where we were coming from and what we were wanting to see from just being able to do business as an advisor. The technology was nowhere close to what it needed to be to make us feel comfortable and familiar with what we were used to seeing. And so that's why we didn't do that. That's why we didn't join that. Join an existing big RIA and plug in somewhere was that was a problem. And then why we didn't go to the IBD channel. I had been at the IBD channel, and this mass exodus that's happening doesn't really make you feel warm and fuzzy that you want to stay there very long, right? When all the top people are leaving and going RIA at the IBD channel because they've outgrown it, the compliance burden, the technology burden. It's like, why would you? If you've seen that, you can't unsee it.
Exactly.
You can't go there and knowing that.
I feel like that story though is a really good story too, because I mean, like that's like possibly the very first time that I ever heard the letters RIA together in a sentence was when you told me about when we were recruiting you to come from the RJ IBD channel to come to work with us at Edward Jones, which again, I just think is such a, it's fun. It's funny now, we kind of make fun of it, but I mean, it's just such a poetic story, right? That there's not that many people that have done both, like that have done both, but then also done it in the order that you did it, right? And so you're the authority. You're the authority on this subject, right?
Nobody
I mean, truly,
has gone from...
how many people are there in the existence that have been at the captive broker dealer, the independent broker dealer, and launched their own RIA and done that in like 10 years of a career or something?
And if they've ever done that, they certainly didn't go IBD to captive broker dealer
exactly.
to RIA.
Exactly, right? Like it never it's like you have to be a one of one.
So basically what ends up happening is I was at the IBD channel at RJ and wanted to go RIA. And talked to Jason and was like, hey, we need to do this. Let's start an RIA. This is where all the top RJ IBD people are going. Like, we need to join this movement. This is the mecca. And what was Jason's response? Oh, we're too big to move. We could never possibly leave Jones. It's too big of a lift.
That's a true story. That was before you actually came to Edward Jones, when you were still at RJ IBD, and you were like, hey, when are we going to do this? And I just, like probably many people that are listening to this, or some people that are listening to this, I just thought at the time, it wasn't even really like, oh, RIA is too much of a move. I just thought we, generally speaking, could never do such a thing, right? It would just be, we'd get sued into oblivion. We would not bring all of our clients with us. We would, whatever, all of the stereotypical,
all the things they tell you
all the things
meetings.
All the things that you are told and you believe, is ultimately what we believed, and then as we all know, things changed over time, and so that's really where the whole thing kind of came, largely from that, though. I mean, and I'm really looking forward to bringing Rex on the show sometime and talking to him and just like kind of hearing his perspective on that whole thing too, because I do feel like we would not be where we were today if it weren't for the timing of that whole thing, and
100%. Everything kind of happens for a reason, and the timing was definitely ordained. But I would just say, if you're listening to this and you're contemplating going IBD, like leaving where you're at and going to the independent broker dealer because you think that's true independence, that you think that that's going to be what you want it to be and what you think it is. It's simply not.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I can show you as evidence is go listen to Raymond James' last public release on their earnings.
Mm-hmm.
And they sit there and they talk about the mass exodus of
Mm-hmm.
people leaving the IBD channel and forming their RIA or joining an RIA. What more do you need to know? Why would you
Mhm.
want to join something that literally hundreds, if not thousands of people are leaving every year to get away from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, and the reason why it's happening is because it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you have a broker dealer attached to your book and you get too big, you have to start doing compliance with the lowest common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really drives your efficiency in your office down to a snail's pace. I
Mhm.
mean, you can't operate more than a couple $100 million of book of business with
Yeah.
that type of compliance and be able to really scale and
Mhm.
grow your business at the
Mhm.
same time. It's like you're just kind of maintaining. That's why a lot of people probably listening that are in the $200-300 million book of business, they've probably peaked out
Mhm.
on their growth,
Yeah.
or they think they have,
Mhm.
or they think the growth that they've got is like as good as they're going to be able to do ever.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, it's probably not even anywhere close,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's probably just scratching the surface of what they could do if they were able to bolt on a lot of these services that they
Mhm.
can't offer right now.
Yeah.
CPA service, alternative investments, the whole world of alternative investments and what that
Yeah.
can bring to somebody's book of business in terms of assets and value add to clients, estate
Mhm.
planning. I mean,
Ability
it's-
to hire people and bring them in underneath you, and
yeah, scale, like have junior advisors, like true junior advisors that can
Yeah.
move their way up, and you can look them
multiple
in the eye and
locations if you want to.
You can tell them.
Yeah.
You can you're the boss. You can tell them this is your career trajectory, and it's not going to have to go through somebody in some other
Mhm.
city.
Yeah.
That's like, actually, we changed our mind.
Actually, yeah, this is it, and this is what they're allowed to do, not allowed to do. This is how they get paid, how much they get paid,
Right.
etc. You can create that on your own.
Right. And so, and own your own book, right?
Yeah.
Own your book of business,
Mm-hmm.
move it one time, own instantly the equity in that business. You move that $1 million account out that was generating X amount of dollars a year. That just is now equity
Mhm.
that you've built in your business,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's the type of independence that you should be wanting, not this kind of halfway house quasi independence that is not ultimately where you're going to end up retiring at.
So let's think about that too. You talk about owning your own business. So it's like, don't you own your own business in the independent broker dealer space too? Right? Like, what's the difference? Would you say? You think that the business is worth more maybe in the RA space?
Right. I think you're definitely going to get more money for your book of business if it's not tied and ingrained into one particular broker dealer,
Yeah.
right? Especially if it's not guaranteed that broker dealer is going to let you move that money to RIA someday, right? They might just kind of turn that spigot off,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden you've got a captive buyer's market of, well, I hope somebody that's in the IBD channel at this one firm wants to buy my book of business.
There will be buyers, but you're going to have a smaller audience of people that can buy that.
In a much lower valuation. Why
Yeah.
would I buy that? I'm going to pay way more money if I can bolt these people onto my existing business and scale it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and have the person I already have running these other chunk of clients run those people.
Exactly.
If you're going to have more local people bidding on your book of business,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know if you've got a bunch of people that are local, those, like, buying those people come at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
If they're local people, they're not going to go find a different advisor because they like you. You buy a book of business in Texas that's based in California, who really knows if that client that you're buying is going to stay with you when they can go find a local advisor
Mm-hmm.
that's been dripping on them locally for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so so you're going to get a higher valuation
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, you own your book of business, true, but do you 100% own it if you are told where they have to custody their money,
Exactly.
right? And if
Yeah.
you want to change that, you're having to do a whole bunch of paperwork and all this stuff to kind of get them to a different custodian. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, are you going to lose some people during that transition from
Mm-hmm.
IBD to RAA?
Yeah.
So do you really own it?
Mm-hmm.
If I guess you fully own it if you intend to retire in the IBD channel and sell it to somebody that's in the IBD channel.
Yeah. At a lower multiple.
At a lower multiple. But if you ever thought, I'm someday going to go RAA, there's bound to be some, whenever you move your book of business, you're always going to leave clients behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? You're never going to take 100% of your people,
Mm-hmm.
because people, it's just like that, it's change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yeah, you might own it, but there's some percentage of that you aren't going to move if you move again.
Mm-hmm.